And we're joined by Shubhamoy Bhattacharjee, Senior Analyst for Economic Affairs. Thanks very much for being with us, Mr. Bhattacharjee. Now, what structural reforms or, policy choices have enabled India to contribute that nearly 16% or more than 16% of to global growth that Prime Minister is talking about?
Yeah, Mark, the distinctive point that the Prime Minister made in that speech was about reform not just being a change of policies, but what he pointed out was there's policy, there's process, and then there is execution. And he said that unless these three come together, then policies don't really turn into implementable goals. And he took the example of the road sector, the railway sector, where the number of approvals have been cut down. He specifically mentioned the fact that cabinet notes, which were pretty long, took pretty long time to develop and be approved by the cabinet. All of those have been shortened. Now, those are actually quite significant because India always had the potential, but the problem that had happened and which he was rightly pointing out was that the growth wasn't really pushing ahead because the policies were not translating into something which was which would show results on the ground. And I think that is a very big reform that that has definitely happened. You can see in terms of the pace of capital projects, the capital investment, which has reached now rupees 12.2 trillion in this budget. Wouldn't have been possible. I mean, that amount of capital projects would not, I mean, that amount of capital expenditure would not have been possible by the government unless the economy was able to absorb that much amount of capital very fast. So I think that is a very key takeaway for me.
Also, Mr. Bhattacharjee, the Prime Minister emphasized India's rise despite global upheavals. Now, how has India's approach to resilience differed, from the traditional one-size-fits-all models?
Exactly. I mean, again, one of the things that he was talking about was that India, the Indian path, and he said Bharatiya choices, the choices that we make, the each of them are significant. It is not about being led by the development model of somebody who has said, of say Europe or the Americas. It is about choosing a model of development which suits the Indian ethos best, the Indian instincts best. And that is worth saying because that's exactly what is also being necessary. For instance, there was a lot of question at one time that India was, trying to create industrial champions, sectoral champions. And there was a lot of discussions that maybe that's not the right path and we should actually let competition happen from all sides. What it has turned out now is that sectoral champions, industrial champions is something not just India now, but the entire world is now following, right from as large an economy like USA or China, of course, but all other economies are trying to create industrial champions. Now, so that's something that that the Indian position has been upheld. That yes, it makes sense to do that sort of a plan and that sort of executional strategy. Yes,
Mr. Bhattacharjee, also the Prime Minister talked about India, being the engine of world growth, and this is the century of change. He also talked about a new world order. What sort of role is India playing in shaping this evolving global economic order?
Well, very majorly, I mean, two things that's coming up immediately is one, the fact that you are finding that in AI, the government is actually pushing a lot in terms of, achieving what is called the application AI stage, which is the fifth stage, not the foundational AI, but the application AI. And that is a very, very major strategic intent, which India is making clear that where it will be on the AI race. India AI Summit is coming up next week, and this is something that's going to be heard very carefully. In fact, he also talked about, in his closing remarks, about the role of AI and how disruptive it would be. And I think that is something that is very well taken. Also, the role of renewable energy, the amount of stuff that India is now pushing on renewable energy, Already Niti Aayog has come up with a net zero, the detailed roadmap of what Indian investments and strategies would be from here on till 2050. They clearly demonstrate which are the two areas, the big broad areas where India would be pushing, which the Prime Minister definitely talked about.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Mr. Shubham Bhattacharjee, senior economic journalist. Thank you for putting that into perspective for us.